I heard my neighbor screaming, but no one else did. I want to be very clear before I start. I am not a paranoid person. I don't jump at shadows. I don't believe every noise means something terrible. I'm the kind of person who explains things away until there is absolutely no other explanation left. That's why it scares me how long it took for me to realize what was actually happening. I live alone in a 6th-floor apartment building on the edge of the city. It's one of those places built in the early 90s. Thin walls, aging pipes, carpeted hallways that permanently smell faintly of dust and cleaning chemicals. Not dangerous, not luxurious. Just there. The kind of place where nothing ever happens. My upstairs neighbor moved in about 4 months after I did. His name was Mark. I only know that because I saw it on a package once. Late 30s or early 40s. Tall, lean, quiet. He worked night soar, at least that's what I assumed, because I rarely saw him during the day. We exchanged nods. Nothing more. No red flags. The first scream happened on a Sunday night. It was 11:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I checked my phone right after. I was half asleep on my couch, TV murmuring in the background, when I heard a sound that snapped me fully awake. A scream. Not a movie scream. Not exaggerated. Not loud enough to echo through the whole building. It sounded like someone trying not to scream and failing. It came from directly above me. I sat up, heart pounding, holding my breath. I waited for something. Another scream, a crash, footsteps, anything. Nothing. I told myself it could have been a nightmare. Someone yelling in their sleep. People do that. I've done that. I went to bed uneasy, but unconvinced. Then it happened again 2 nights later. Same time range, around midnight. This one was shorter, sharper, cut off abruptly, like someone had clamped a hand over their own mouth. I pressed my ear to the ceiling. Silence. The next morning, I mentioned it casually to a coworker. She laughed and said her husband screams when he gets leg cramps. That explanation stuck. I accepted it because I wanted to, but the screams kept coming. Not every night. That would have been easier to explain. They happened inconsistently, sometimes 2 nights in a row, sometimes once a week, always late, always brief. Always followed by a strange, heavy, quiet, no music, no TV, no movement afterward, just stillness. I started paying attention. I noticed that whenever the screaming happened, the building's hallway lights on my floor flickered afterward. Not immediately, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later. I chalked it up to old wiring. Then came the smells. Not constant, not overwhelming. Just faint traces of something sharp and chemical drifting down through the vents, like burnt plastic or overheated electronics. I emailed building management. They sent maintenance. Maintenance shrugged. Old wiring, they said. Nothing dangerous. I almost believed them. What finally pushed me over the edge was the night I realized the screams weren't random. They followed a pattern, always after Mark came home. I started noticing his routine by accident. He got home between 10:30 and 11 p.m. most nights. I'd hear his door close, his footsteps cross his living room. Then, about 30 to 40 minutes later, the scream, not immediately, not impulsively, like something that built up. That realization sat in my stomach like a stone. One night, after a particularly sharp scream, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I went upstairs. I stood outside his door, heart racing, debating whether to knock. I didn't want to accuse him of anything. I just wanted to ask if he was okay. I raised my hand. Before I could knock, I heard breathing on the other side of the door. Heavy, controlled, too close, like he was standing right there. I froze. The breathing stopped. I walked away. The next morning, I noticed something new. A thin, dark streak along the hallway carpet outside his apartment. It looked like a drag mark, faint, almost cleaned, but not entirely gone. I reported it. Management cleaned it. No one asked questions. Weeks passed. The screaming continued. Then came the night. Everything changed. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. to a sound I had never heard before. Not a scream. Crying. Low. Broken. Uncontrolled. It wasn't loud, but it carried. It seeped through the ceiling, through the walls, straight into my chest. This wasn't pain from an accident. This was panic. I called the police. I didn't hesitate this time. I told them exactly what I'd been hearing. I told them it was ongoing. I told them I was scared. They came. They knocked on his door. No answer. They listened. They heard nothing. They told me if it happened again, to call back. That same night, less than an hour after they left, I heard the loudest scream yet. It wasn't human sounding anymore. It was raw, strained, like someone pushing their vocal cords past what they were meant to do. And something new. A thud. A heavy, unmistakable body hitting the floor. I didn't think. I ran upstairs. His door was unlocked. Inside, the apartment was dark except for the bathroom light. The crying was coming from there. I stood frozen in the doorway, every instinct screaming at me to leave. But then I heard him say something. Not yelling, not crying, talking to himself. I went too far this time, he whispered. I stepped back. The floor creaked. The talking stopped. Footsteps approached. I bolted. I didn't stop running until I reached the stairwell. I called 911 again, hysterical this time. They came faster. This time they broke the door down. Mark was alive. Barely. The bathroom was wrong, not violent, not bloody in the way you expect. Clinical. Wires, equipment, timers, notes taped to the walls. Not torture devices. Testing devices, pain thresholds, oxygen deprivation, electrical stimulation. He hadn't been hurting anyone else. He had been hurting himself, deliberately, methodically. Recording reactions, recording sounds, recording screams. The officers were shaken. One of them threw up in the hallway. Mark was taken away on a stretcher, unconscious but breathing. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. 3 days later, detectives came to speak to me. They asked if Mark had ever spoken to me. I said no. They asked if I've ever been inside his apartment before. I said no. Then they showed me something they found on his computer. A folder labeled external variables. Inside were audio files. Dozens of them. Time-stamped. Each labeled with notes. Neighbor asleep. Neighbor awake. Lights on. Neighbor upstairs. He wasn't just testing pain. He was testing reactions. His screams weren't accidents. They were experiments. He was measuring how long it took for someone to respond. If anyone responded, how loud he had to scream before help came. And the worst part? The final file. The one dated the night I went upstairs. The note read, "Response achieved. Mark survived. He was charged but not imprisoned the way you'd expect. Mental health facility. Ongoing evaluation." I moved out immediately. New building, new locks. New routine. But last week I got a voicemail. No number, just breathing. Then, very softly, "I know you listened. I don't live under anyone anymore. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear screaming. And I don't know if it's memory or a warning